Mindset X Factor podcast. It's our third episode. Today we're going to be talking about how to find your passion and how you can create a fulfilling career, which a lot of people have been speaking about. I get asked a lot about the question about how to find your passion. So hopefully you'll find our discussion today quite interesting and quite helpful. We've got obviously the executive chairman and founder of MCA Training International, Dave Boreham, with us. And also, as a guest, we've got Alan Chazen, who's a human behavior specialist and has been one of Dave's mentors for many, many a year. And we're very happy to have you join us today, Alan. Thank you so much. My very first question, I find what I'm passionate about.
I think one of the biggest problems with finding passion is that people tend to go for what they think they want, but very few people know what they actually want. So, you've got people like Simon Sinek, who I really appreciate and respect, and he brought out a book called The Why. And even in that book, it's not the real why. The why that they talk about is generally a need. And unfortunately, when you are trying to drive yourself through a need, it's not strong enough. So what you want to do is you want to convert the need into a want. And very few people know what that want is.
Find what that is. What's the process? What would you recommend?
You've got to keep on asking yourself why. So most people would say, for example, if I said to you, what do you think it is that drives you? What's your core driver? What would you say?
Well, I think like for me, the thing that I've discovered for myself is helping people with discovering their potential and helping them to achieve their highest priorities, find out what's most important to them, and help them to achieve that.
Now, you see, that is a very noble thing to do, but that is still what you want to do, not why you want to do it. So, why do you want to help people?
It makes me happy. It brings me happy. It fulfills me. It satisfies me, I guess.
And what about that do you think is fulfilling? Because you see, you're still telling me what it does. You're not telling me why you want it. And this is the problem generally. And I've interviewed maybe tens of thousands of people over the years, and not one person has been able to tell me why. They all tell me what, or they'll tell me what the need is, to feel good about themselves or whatever it is. But that's still not the why. And if you don't get to that core driver, it's very difficult when you get to tough times to drive yourself or motivate yourself. The second part of what you are addressing is basically career choice, or getting to do what you want to do in life. And most people tend to go for the careers that are probably logically the best thing to do. For example, dentists, doctors, accountants, etc. Now, there's nothing wrong with those careers, but doing that as an individual, you're probably never going to have the time that you want to do the things that you want to do. And the only way that you can do that is if you build an organization and you have other people doing the work for you, and ultimately you earning off that group of people. Then what you have is a passive income. Then you can do what you want in life and you can fulfill what you want. And through a lot of people, you obviously get a lot more income, because you can only earn what one person can earn. So if you earn only 20% of what others are earning and you've got 10 people, you're already doubling your income. So, it's that type of thing. So those are the two things that I think very few people address when they either want to choose a career. And the other thing that very few people address is why they want to do it. Because if you don't know what the why is, the genuine why, the true why, then you're not going to be driven in times of need, basically. And everybody goes through a patch in their business where it doesn't work out as well as they expected, and you've got to hang in there. And if you don't know what the why is, it's probably not going to hang in.
That's why I think a lot of people do give up, and when the times do get hard and that sort of thing, because there isn't that driver, as you say, that helps them over those difficult times and pushes them through those difficult times. Now, obviously, as you're going about, I guess from what I'm getting from you, it's like a process, it's like a journey of this discovery of your why. It's the continually asking and going deeper and deeper.
You would need someone who has the skill to ask you the right questions, because you would never ask yourself the right questions simply because we've never been trained that way. So, for example, you said you want to help people and that fulfills you, that makes you feel good. But that's still what you want to do. And you do know what the reason is. It's subconscious, probably, but you haven't brought it out to a conscious level. And if you bring it to a conscious level, you would then be able to say, okay, that is what I really want to do. Otherwise, you're doing what you think is the best thing for you to do. So the question that you would have to ask yourself would be, why do I want to do things that make me feel good? Because there's a benefit to that and there's a reward to that. And if you don't know what that reward is, then you're not bringing the true why out of the deal.
You need like a coach, a mentor, someone to help guide you through that process is what I'm getting from you, which I get that, because sometimes you're not always willing to ask yourself those types of questions and those tough questions and that sort of thing. Um,
But that's exactly why, at the end of the day, Al, you tend to find that most people don't want to go that route. They don't really want to delve into finding out the real why. So it's superficial for a lot of people, and it really never fulfills them at the end of the day. So when you talk about finding that passion and that joy and that happiness that comes with it, as you say, it requires a great coach, somebody who knows and understands it, to help people ask the right questions and to help them to come up with the kind of answers that will make sense to them at the end of the day.
It's very accurate, Dave. And, you and I both know we've been in the game a long time. And you've become very good at this yourself. And what I believe is that even when you get to the point where everybody else around that person knows what the answer is, that person won't find it because they don't, as you say, they don't want to look at it. And the reason for that is because they believe that it's futile. They believe it's puerile. They think they are more noble than that. And unfortunately, we are all selfish beings, and we need to satisfy the selfishness within us. And if we don't satisfy that selfishness, it's a constant hunger and it just doesn't go away. So we tend to do things for the wrong reasons for the rest of our lives, simply because we deny the fact that we have a real core driver, something that might be selfish, but it's still very worthwhile to us. So by fulfilling the selfish need, we can then progress to a more unselfish or outwardly focused mentality or demeanor.
Yeah, it's really at the end of the day all about growing ourselves out of selfishness. And that for most people never really happens because, as you say, they're not prepared to go that route. So when we ask these sort of questions, it's uncomfortable. It really
Mm,
becomes uncomfortable.
absolutely.
To even admit that I'm a selfish being is uncomfortable, but it's something we have to do in order to move forward.
You see, the interesting thing, Dave, is that there are two kinds of selfishness. There's a good selfishness and there's a bad selfishness. And we've been brought up believing that any selfishness is bad. So just the thought that we might be selfish in any form is obnoxious. So
Is a
what we
no-no.
tend to do,
Yeah.
what we tend to do is hide that. So anything that points to me as being a selfish being, I immediately push away. However, there is a noble selfishness. The noble selfishness says, I know that I have needs. I know that I want to satisfy those needs. In order to satisfy those needs, I cannot do it by being selfish. I have to do it by being outwardly focused and giving to others instead of trying to receive. And the more I give, the more I get back. And the more I get back, the less I need. And the more I get, that gives me greater capacity again to give back again. And as I keep on doing that, so my need for selfishness disappears. But it has to start with an acknowledgement that I am selfish. So to get back to what you were asking earlier, Raynor, and by telling it, very few people will buy it. They'll actually say that's not me, and that's why I never tend to tell people what it is that they want. But for the purpose of this podcast, so that we don't leave people hanging, I will tell you what it is. There are basically three things that motivate all mankind. And until you've satisfied those three things, you cannot move on to a higher level of being. And the things that motivate people are love, in other words, an intimate one-on-one love relationship. Someone who doesn't have that love relationship, that will be their core driver until they satisfy that. Then it becomes acceptance. The reason most people don't do what they want to do or even acknowledge the fact that they have an internal need or desire for acceptance is because they fear rejection. So the acid test for acceptance, if you want acceptance, is if you fear rejection. But even that, it's very difficult for people to acknowledge that they want that acceptance. And then the other one is respect. And basically, the difference between acceptance and respect is when people accept you, they listen to what you say. When people respect you, they do what you say. And very, very few people have that kind of aura that when they say something, everybody says, cool, I'm in. And so those are the basic three things that motivate the majority of mankind. So the acid test is, do I have a love relationship? Am I able to give love as much as I'm able to receive love? That is the acid test for love. The acid test for acceptance is very, very simple. Do I ever get hurt? Do I ever get defensive? Do I ever get aggressive? Do I ever get angry? Do I ever get hurt? All these kind of things. The only reason that I get those things or those things affect me is because I have a desire for acceptance. If I have no need for acceptance at all, it doesn't matter what people say, think, or do, because I know who I am and I'm above that. I can act that, but it's not going to satisfy me. And the problem with what we're talking about is if you don't physically drive through these things that we're talking about, it never happens. So what happens is you remain selfish for the rest of your life, hoping that you will eventually get to that pinnacle, wherever that is. And on Maslow's hierarchy, they talk about self-actualization. I don't think many people even know what the term means. So, to get to self-actualization is where you're really comfortable in your own skin and where you have no need for your own needs anymore. You're able to give, whether it be financially, whether it be emotionally, etc. You are able to give to others. So unless you satisfy those things genuinely, and the only way to satisfy it is to acknowledge that you want them selfishly. But the fact that you want them selfishly, how do you fulfill that? You fulfill that by giving, by being supportive, by being helpful, by being outwardly focused.
Yeah, so it's that, like you said, you mentioned that self-actualization, and it's about the you're speaking about this journey that it's a journey of selfishness, this good selfishness that you help to clarify. And I think when you get to that state of self-actualization, you've sort of worked through that selfishness, even to the point where you no longer have that from others and because you already have that now within yourself. You've worked through that. You've gone, as you said, to that next level. And that's very great insight. Thank you, Alan. I've definitely learned a thing or two from your experience and your wisdom. So thank you so much for that. I think
Thank you.
this. Thank you very much. I think this obviously was this what you've shared with me is obviously, as you said, it's a lot deeper to what you think what your I could say your superficial passion is, for lack of a better word. It goes far deeper than that, and as you start this journey and as you discover that more and more, and you go through this process of asking yourself why, and you actually find out why you actually are doing what you do, it becomes a very powerful process, I think. And yeah, I'm very, very grateful for what you've shared with us today, and I'm sure many people have had their minds blown from what you've shared. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks.
Um,
Thanks,
so
Randall. Thanks, Randall.
we're very grateful for you. Thank you for your time again. Again, for all those that are listening in, if you've enjoyed what you've heard today, please remember to subscribe to whichever platform you like to listen to your podcast to. Share it with your friends, with your family, with whoever you feel could benefit from what we're discussing. And please make sure that you do that so that you don't miss out on our next episodes moving forward, and that you can continue to join us and learn from either from ourselves or, like Alan, one of our guests that we will have on our podcast in the future. Thank you so much, everyone.